Hello, everyone, and welcome to the With Chinese Characteristics Book Club, Water Margin, Chapter 8. I'm Natalie.
I'm Cherry.
And every chapter, we go over a chapter of the Water Margin, talk about it in detail, have some laughs.
Have some tears.
Talk about some of the references in it, you know? And this is Chapter 9, Cherry. So Cherry, Chapter 9 is called Chai Jin Keeps Open House for All Bold Men. Lin Chong defeats Instructor Hong in a bout with staves and a bout with sticks. So, Cherry, when we last left off in the Water Margin,
Yeah, I remember.
Lin Chong was on his way towards exile
Yeah,
for the crime of having too hot of a wife,
exactly.
right? His wife was too hot. His superior was too lecherous.
Yeah.
You know, he was too clumsy at navigating the political system. Mm-hmm. And now he's in exile.
Yeah.
So, however, on his exile, as he's being led through a spooky forest, his two guards, who had been bribed to execute him, tie him to a tree and get ready to bash his brains in.
Yeah. Real elaborate.
They're like,
Prepping,
sorry.
by the way.
Yeah, there's some kind of reasoning, right? But it's kind of an elaborate situation.
No, they make a speech. My favorite sentence is still,
Next
year on this day will be the 1 year anniversary of your death.
Which is a really good way to say you're going to kill someone.
Yeah. Very unnecessarily long, elaborate way.
10 years from today?
Yeah.
Will
It will be a 10-year anniversary.
of your death.
We could just keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So real good.
So when that was happening.
Yeah. Right? So here is from the novel.
Okay.
Shui Ba, one of the guards, raised his staff with both hands to bring it down on Lin Chong's head. But quicker than words can tell, although I guess we're kind of telling it in words here. Quicker than words can tell, from behind the pine tree came a thunderous roar as a solid iron rod shot forward, intercepted the staff, and sent it flying into the sky. Then out leapt a big fat monk.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, I wonder if we can guess who this big
Who
fat
makes
monk.
the reappearance? Who else other than?
Our favorite wise Buddhist monk, Sagacious Liu.
Yeah.
I've been listening for quite a while, he yelled. I've been here the whole time. Dressed in a black cassock, he was wearing a knife and carried a Buddhist staff, in case you forgot. You know,
The famous stack.
Yeah, which he brandished at the two guards. So, Sagacious Liu, we find out, has been following them the entire time. And he's like, I wanted to beat up those guards, but there was too many witnesses. So I waited for the opportune moment to hop out. I guess
He's becoming wiser and wiser.
I know, he's sagacious. I guess the vegetable garden kind of runs itself. He's ready to kill these two guards.
Yeah.
But Lin Chong stays his hand, saying they had no choice given Gao Chou's power and influence, right? They're like, they're just doing what they got to do.
Yeah. It's blame the game. Don't blame the Don't blame the players.
Exactly. Liu agrees not to kill them, but now makes them carry Lin to the next roadside tavern where they drink wine and eat griddle cakes. Which I asked Jerry, I was like, what are...
Okay, here's the first cultural fact, which is not a cultural fact at all. Here's the thing about the Water Margin, the book, okay? It's a long book. It's got a lot of characters. It's got a lot of chapters. And you have to think of each chapter as like a long Chinese TV show that's on the Chinese TV. I guess that's a very repetitive way of saying. But basically, it's not on Netflix. It needs to be like 45 minutes.
They gotta fill.
You have to fill the time.
Yeah.
You gotta have a commercial break.
If you've never watched a traditional Chinese drama or even like Japanese or Korean drama, they're like 50 some episodes. They're an hour long.
Yeah. And the reason they have this many episodes is that they sell it to the TV stations. The producers sell it to the TV station, and each episode, in the number of episodes, another episode will mean another more money.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of details, is what I'm trying to say, in each chapter, detail to like how they, I guess, eat the griddle cake.
I know about griddle cake.
How people are dressed. Sometimes there's a plot point in there. Sometimes, Natalie, they're just eating griddle cakes. There is no significance or cultural significance.
I know, but it makes me think of like Denny's or IHOP.
I know. So
they're settling down after a rough day to have some pancakes.
To further prove my point, I'm just gonna jump ahead. Natalie asked me three questions
No, you
for this
can't
episode.
talk about the soup yet.
I can't.
No, save the soup.
Oh, there will be a soup.
Yeah,
everyone.
we'll save the soup.
Right. So yeah, so they eat griddle cakes here for no significant plot or cultural reasons.
But they're like pancakes, right? Green onion pancakes?
They're sure.
Okay. So anyway.
That's sort of a pancake is sort of like a panned cake, you know. It's a very general term. What you're thinking about the American brunch fluffy pancake was I don't know, was
Butter and maple syrup.
sure, yeah, is not really what it is here.
Okay, that's too bad.
Yeah. But they sit down and they have a meal.
Yeah. So the guards now, not really sure what's going on. They're kind of trying to suss out the situation. Mm-hmm. They say, "May we presume to inquire?" So polite.
Very carefully.
The guards say to Sagacious, "In what monastery you reside, Reverend?" Sagacious chuckled. "Why do you ask, scoundrels? So you can tell Marshal Gao how to harm me? Others may fear him. I don't. If I meet that wretch, I'll give him 300 licks of my iron staff." The guards dared say no more. So they're not really sure what's going on. They're trying to really figure out, like, so what's the deal now? Is this monk just with us forever?
Yeah.
Are we being kidnapped?
Right.
You know, I'm trying to figure it out. But what Sagacious announces is that he's going to escort Lin all the way to the exile destination, which upsets the guards since now they won't be able to kill Lin and they already took half the gold.
Yeah. Now they have to return the gold. They have to give a refund.
Yeah, it's probably not going to go that well for them.
Yeah. Probably more. They have to pay more than a refund.
Yes.
Maybe like their life. Or
yeah, their
something.
lives.
Yeah.
So here's from the novel. From then on, they marched when Sagacious wanted to march and rested when he wanted to rest. How dared they oppose him? In a good mood, he merely cursed them. In a bad, he beat them. Neither of the guards dared say a word for fear of arousing the monk's ire. We also learned the guards have to do all the chores now.
Yeah.
They have to do the cleaning.
They're basically
like,
servants.
Cook the food and stuff. And they say, "We've become the prisoners and the monk the escort."
I highlighted that too. Really like it.
He's just too tough.
Yeah. And then they had a private conversation.
Yeah.
I really like this part because they said, quote, "I've heard that a newly arrived monk has been put in charge of the Great Shangguo Monastery's vegetable fields."
How boring is Kaifeng City?
I know. Like, this is on the map, right? Like, these people are not tough dudes, right? So they're not exactly, like, how they heard about it is like, oh, a new sheriff in town for the vegetable garden.
Yeah, like, is that really that exciting? Like, everybody's keeping up with the latest, the greatest the latest, like, news
Gazette,
from the vegetable monastery.
The local Gazette was like, yeah.
New monastery, monk in town. Looks tough.
Yeah, exactly. So they're like, oh, he's called Sagacious Lu. This must be the man.
Yeah.
So they kind of figured out who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a pretty distinctive guy.
Yeah.
So they decide, though, okay, when we get back to Kaifeng, we're going to tell Marshal Gao and we're going to get our revenge on this guy.
Yeah.
Eventually,
but at least they know who to blame.
Yeah, who to blame. So eventually, though, they get near Kongzhou and Sagacious leaves them. Kongzhou is the exile destination.
Yes.
Am I saying it wrong?
Yeah. Changzhou.
Is that good?
Perfect. Nali's learning Chinese, by the way, everyone.
Eventually, though, they get near Changzhou
Yeah.
and Sagacious leaves them. He gives Lin and the guards some silver. Like, everybody's got to bribe everyone, every interaction here.
I know.
Cherry and I took a sleeper train once from Los Angeles to Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Amtrak sleeper train. And it's like every interaction with like the people, you gotta like tip somebody.
Yeah.
This is like Chinese
We were
culture.
out of tip money real soon because we didn't
Realize
anticipate how many interactions there would be.
You gotta bring silver.
Yeah.
Sagacious Lu, for whatever reason, tips the guards. Mm-hmm. And then he smashes a pine tree apart with his staff to prove a point.
Yeah.
He's like, "You guys get any ideas?" Bam! And he like cuts a tree in half, like with his stick. And he's like, "That's what's gonna happen to you if you get up to any nonsense."
"I will clot your heads like I did this pine," roared the monk.
Maybe Sagacious Lu just hates trees. He's like ripping.
I know, he doesn't have a good track record with trees.
Ripping them up, smashing them in half.
He's not an environmentalist, Natalie.
No. Anyway, so they eat at a tavern, or they go to sit down at a tavern.
Well, he did have a reason, though. He did say that, because from now to the end destination.
Yeah, he says that there's going to be people there.
Yeah,
People
he scouted out there, or he asked around to make sure there's no private little forest.
No more spooky forests.
Yeah.
In between there. So he's like, if you just try and kill him,
Yeah.
they'll realize.
Yeah.
So anyway, they stop at a tavern now. Sagacious Lu goes home, but no one serves them. Lin Chong thinks it's because he's a prisoner. He's still got the big board on his head this whole time. Keep that in mind, big board. But it turns out there's a much more elaborate reason. Very elaborate reason. This is what the tavern keeper says to them. In our village, there is a wealthy man named Chai Jin, known in these parts as Small Whirlwind. He's a descendant of the later Zhou dynasty royal family. And the Zhou dynasty is, I think there was like 3 or 4, I don't know, dynasties in between the end of the Tang dynasty, beginning of the Song. It was kind of
It's been a while since his family's been in charge.
It's been a tumultuous period, but this would be maybe 100-something years since then. He's a descendant of the later Zhou royal dynasty family. When the later Zhou emperor surrendered the throne, the first Song emperor bestowed on Chai's ancestors a wrought iron pledge. Since then, no one has dared molest his family. So ask Cherry, what is the wrought iron pledge?
There is a cultural significance.
Oh, okay.
Unlike the
griddle
griddle cakes.
What about the soup, though? There better be something with the soup.
We'll talk about the soup in a second.
Okay.
Or rather, we will not, because there is no... Shh. Okay, so what is a wrought iron pledge? Okay, so this is commonly known as the free of death medal.
Okay.
You know, in a common way when people call it. You might call it 免死金牌 in Chinese period drama. But the idea is that...
Free of death medal, okay.
Yeah, death penalty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's not like a superstition thing. It's more like, here's your,
Get out of
blank...
jail.
Yeah, get out of jail card, a blank check.
Yeah.
Right? And it began in the Han Dynasty in China. And it's sort of just a certificate with a reward and covenant nature issued by the emperor, the highest power in this land, to either important officials who has, to important officials who has contributed greatly to the court, who had showed their loyalty, and it is a reward granted to them and their families, namely male relatives. So
it's making me think of...
Yeah.
So one issue that always causes, I guess, strife, like for example in Europe, in ancient and medieval and different time periods, is let's say there's a guy has an army or rebelled, and the king's like, you need to stop that. You need to get rid of your army. And he thinks, well, if I get rid of my army, then anyone I have no protection, right? Yeah. And at least while I have, Julius Caesar famously brought his army into Rome. Yeah. That started, the Roman Civil Wars.
Sure, yeah.
Because he thought, if I don't have my army, all of my political enemies are just going to bring up BS court cases against me. They're going to do all this stuff. So I'm assuming...
Power comes from the barrel of the gun.
Yeah, so I'm guessing sometimes, judging from in Chai Jin's family's case, that it's okay, no, just you can surrender your army, you can end the Zhou dynasty, and you won't suffer consequences.
No, that's exactly how it started. So Liu Bang, the first Han emperor that established the Han dynasty, in order to consolidate his ruling and win over all the powerful men, he awarded this iron pledge to a lot of them, just sort of to convince them and to tell them that it's gonna be okay.
So basically, you're basically immune to the legal system. It's like you have diplomatic immunity.
In theory.
Okay.
However, this is China.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the Chinese imperial system here. Loyalty, very important, but credit, not so much. When I say credit, I mean for the emperor to keep his words to you.
Yeah.
Not so important. So,
well, it's not like anyone can sue the emperor.
No, exactly.
Well, you said.
Or the first emperor of the Song dynasty said, your great-great-great-grandfather
your
said.
great uncle said this.
So let me find, I wrote an example here. Okay, so in the early years of the Han Dynasty, when this started, there were more than 100 officials who were granted this iron pledge. But apparently, only 5 people were actually pardoned by the emperor. And I think, although now I'm seeing the logic that maybe not all 100 of them had committed a crime.
I'm assuming that it's basically there's 2 parts of it.
Yeah.
One is if you get convicted of a major crime, you'll probably get pardoned.
Yeah.
2 is people aren't even going to bother bringing crimes against you.
No.
unless it's something very dramatic.
Because that's sort of saying, like, you're important. You're in the inner circle of the emperor, right?
Yes.
Although there was one famous character called Han Xing, a real historical character, who's called Han Xing. He's like this famous general, and he in the Western Han Dynasty. He was accused of treason, and Emperor Gaozu ignored the iron pledge he had and sentenced him to death. So, really, it's sort of a give or take, You gotta still maintain your relationship to the emperor. Yeah. If you're like still somewhere
important. It's like all you can eat pasta at Olive Garden.
Yes.
You can't take advantage of it.
No. Or you're like Cai Jing, you sit somewhere in the countryside. Yeah. You're not really gonna bring a rebellion or commit treason to the emperor. Yeah. Then, it's good times. So there are actually 4 actual iron pledge, like it's like an iron plate and it's curved on top and they carve words into it.
And they physically give it to you?
I guess so. Yeah, it's a big thing. And so there are apparently 4 of them in existence. You can see them in some museums. I guess up to 4 museums. Yeah. So that's what it is. And Cai Jing having this, it just means that he's really important.
Well, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it means, as we'll get to, Cai Jing does not give a damn about the legal system.
No, he does not. Also, by the way, here's the thing about the Water Margin. It's loosely based on real history, at least the period and the people's, important characters' last names. Yeah. So Cai Jing's last name, Chen, there was a Chai family that was closely connected to the
Zhou dynasty.
To the Zhou dynasty, and they, that's the real Chai family in history also got the Iron Pledge as well. So that's the story of the Iron Pledge. It's all just to establish Cai Jing's, an important dude, powerful dude.
So we find out Cai Jing is fond of welcoming, and I quote, all bold men.
All men of valor.
All men of valor, all bold men, all tough dudes, dare I say, and has 40 or 50 of them in his home.
Like, how much money does this guy have?
I mean, I guess he's got a lot.
We can barely feed the 2 of us.
I know, but he's got 40 or 50 tough dudes, right? Yeah. These are going to be strapping dudes. And I don't know. Something about it seems a little bit gay, but maybe I'm reading too much into it.
Why not?
Yeah, maybe, Well,
not only he already houses
the Water Margin doesn't kiss and tell. So if it's happening, we don't know.
Yeah. But not only he houses already 40 or 50, that's not enough, Natalie.
No.
He has an open call out in the wild.
He can't get enough.
Yeah. The local tavern knows, like he's told in the local tavern, he's like, keep an eye out. Keep an eye out for any tough dudes that comes, this way.
Yeah. And the funny thing,
especially if they're in exile.
Yeah. The criminal tough dudes, if they're real bad boys.
Yeah, exactly. Or I think maybe it's just easier for him to take advantage, any port in a storm.
Well, I just find it also funny because we're going to get into what happened, but so basically the tavern keeper says, oh, there's this guy, Cai Jing. He's out for every tough dude he can get his hands on. Mm-hmm. But if you have money, he won't help you. So I couldn't serve you because if you paid me, somehow he'd find out.
Well, no, he said if you're red in the face, he didn't want them to get drunk.
No, but if he was drunk, if he was drinking, then it would seem like he had money. Oh, he could pay his own way.
Yes.
And so I find that funny for 2 reasons. A, that the tavern keeper somehow just identifies him immediately as a tough dude on the run.
There's an aura.
As opposed to some other kind of criminal.
Yeah.
Which there's lots, right? You could be like a salt thief,
Yeah.
And the other thing though is like he didn't just tell them this. He had to go through this elaborate song and dance where he waited and like didn't serve them.
Yeah. It doesn't say how he thought Lin Chong was, like based on what Lin Chong was a tough dude.
You can see like the.
I know, but he's wearing but
you can see the above their head, like what level they are.
Oh, okay, yeah, right? Exactly. Floating,
and like their health bar and
floating,
stuff.
Yeah.
So he could tell.
Yeah.
So, so they decide to visit Cai Jing's house.
Of course they do.
Tough dudes, right?
Yeah.
But he's away, so they figure out they're out of luck. They're out of luck. They're like, Cai Jing's gone. He's out hunting. But then, and this is from the book, far off, they saw a column of horsemen dash out of a grove and come galloping in the direction of the estate. On a snow-white steed with a curly mane rode a noble-looking gentleman. He had the brows of a dragon and the eyes of a phoenix.
What an entrance.
What an entrance. Gleaming white teeth and ruby red lips.
Look, you're a little bit too detailed in terms of what a beautiful man, basically.
Drooping mustaches framed his mouth, below which was a slim goatee. About 35 years of age, he wore a black flowered silk hat with curled up corners and was dressed in a figured purple gown with designs embroidered on the chest. Around his waist was a handsome girdle inlaid with precious jade. On his feet were black boots with green stripes and filigreed gold thread. He carried a bow and a quiver of arrows. So this like real kind of fancy looking hot dude was totally not gay.
Nothing's wrong with him if he is
40,
gay.
With 40 to 50 tough dudes with in need at his house is Lord Chai. No, he's just in it for the tough. He's in it for China. He's collecting tough dudes for China, right? He's trying to support the tough dude network.
Exactly.
I'm reading too much into this chair. I shouldn't read ulterior motives.
Chai Jing, a gay icon.
Yeah, into collecting all of these into these buff dudes.
No,
with
he's
nowhere
a
else to
leader
turn.
in the community, Natalie.
He is a leader.
So
he's a philanthropist.
Yeah.
So we find out that Lin is still wearing also his little wooden prisoner rack.
Yep.
In case you were wondering. And after some quick introductions, it's not Lin who falls to his knees and bows. It's Chai Jin. Chai Jin gets off his horse, falls to his knees, bows, salutes. Supposedly, he already knows of Lin. Tough Dudes Network, I guess.
I know. Words travel fast.
And he places him at the seat of honor at his table, and they have a feast. They bring out some food, and Chai Jin's like, no, put that back. We have the arms instructor of the mighty. They always say mighty. Arms instructor of the mighty Imperial Guards. Bring out the good stuff. Only the best for our guest, Lin Chong. So they bring out the good stuff. This is we keep talking about the soup, but this is from the book. It says Chai Jin drank 3 rounds of Hongzhou, of rice wine, and then he resumed his seat and called, "Bring the soup." Then they drank the soup. So they talk about like just all these other that they ate a bunch of food and they're not very specific, but then they're very specifically they're like, "Bring the soup." And I was like, Cherry.
No, I think you're reading too much into it.
I'm
I think this is another form of Orientalism.
No. I asked Cherry, is there anything special about the soup? And then she made fun of me.
I did not make fun of you.
You kind of did. A little bit.
I was like, Natalie, we're going to have a talk. If we're going to do this book club, we got like 100 other episodes to go through. We can't discuss the soup every time a soup comes up.
Maybe it's like Chekhov's soup.
What?
You've heard of Chekhov's gun?
No.
Well, it was like a Russian playwright. And he basically said, if there's a gun on like the set of the play, on like the mantelpiece.
Oh, okay. There's a reason that it's there.
It's gonna be there.
Yeah,
So
but
I read too much into everything.
We have 4 books.
Yeah, we're not even
There
like
are
halfway.
4 little.
We're not even halfway.
Yeah. One second. Let me look it up.
The soup?
I'm curious.
What are we curious about?
What Jing Shentan says about it.
Oh, we're looking up. Okay, live readers. We're looking up to the Qing Dynasty commentaries on the water margin. Let's see what the Qing Dynasty had to say about the soup.
Says nothing about the soup.
No. Okay.
Let me tell you, he comments a lot on most things.
All right. Okay. I guess it's just soup. All right. So anyway, they're having a good time. Everybody's drinking. What?
Nothing.
All right. Have a good time. Everybody's drinking. Everybody's having the soup.
Yeah.
But then another arms instructor shows up.
Uh-oh. How do you say that? Can't have 2 tigers on the same mountain?
Can't have 2 sheriffs in town.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? This town's not big enough for the both of us. So this guy's name is Arms Instructor Hong. Okay? And Chai Jin introduces Lin Chong to Arms Instructor Hong. And he's like, oh, this is a real cool guy. He got exiled like for some cool stuff.
Yeah.
He's the arms instructor in the Imperial Guard. And Hong's like, yeah, whatever. And so Lin Chong kowtows Arms Instructor Hong. Because, Lin Chong, he's a modest guy, right? He's a polite, modest guy. He's tough, but he's sensitive. He doesn't want to kill the guards, right? He's polite,
His pride might have been beaten down as well throughout this process.
I think he feels a little overwhelmed by this amount of generosity he's receiving.
So he's real polite and humble and nice.
So he kowtows Arms Instructor Hong. And you know what Arms Instructor Hong does?
Nothing.
He's like, he doesn't even bow.
Which is the biggest insult.
I know. He just like turns away. Chai Jin says.
No, here's the thing about Chai Here's the thing about Chinese bowing. Because arms instructor Hong has not bowed back or acknowledged Ling Chong.
He can't get up.
He can't get up.
No.
So Ling Chong dare not raise his head, which I thought, you know what? This really is a thing. There's a back and there's a force.
Well, it's like a handshake.
I know, but it's like
you walk away with
one of the tricks the local gang members played on Sagacious Lu was that they bowed to him or they kneeled down to gesture to him. They're like, he's gonna come and like help us up, right? He's not gonna just not do anything.
And then you just kick them into a pit.
Yes, but the norm, right? The assumption is that the
you go for a handshake, they gotta give you a handshake.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part of the reciprocity. Anyway, so
arms instructor Hong is real
very
rude.
Very rude.
Yeah.
So Chai Jin is sort of offended as the host, right?
Yeah, he's offended
for Lin
as
Chong.
the host and on behalf of Ling Chong.
But
it's also disrespectful to
it's
Chai Jin.
disrespectful, right? Because Chai Jin has Lin Chong at the seat of honor, or he did, but I think Arms Instructor Hong takes his seat. And if you're saying Lin Chong is not worthy of honor, then you're saying like Jin Chai is not worthy. Chai Jin is not for having put him there.
Yeah.
So he says, this gentleman is not an ordinary person. He's an arms instructor in the mighty Imperial Guards. How can you regard him lightly, teacher? So this is what I keep on wanting to say Marshal Hong, but Marshal Hong is the guy in the first chapter.
Different guy, same last name. Both are, we'll talk about afterward. Yeah.
So this is what Arms Instructor Hong says. Because your lordship is fond of feats of arms, these exiled men are always coming to enjoy your bounty. Anyone who says, I'm an arms instructor in spears and staves, can call at the manor and get food and drink and money and rice. Your lordship is too gullible. So, and Chai Jin is kind of like, no, that's not true. And then Hong gets kind of annoyed and challenges Lin to a duel of staves, a stick fight. Chai, who seems to recognize that Lin is a real tough dude and that Hong is sort of a poser, encourages the match.
This is his chance to sniff them out.
There's a saying among many cultures that smaller dogs bark louder.
Yeah.
This is from the book. Chai Jin not only wanted to see an exhibition of Lin's skill, he wanted him to beat Hong and shut the oaf's mouth. So Lin Chong, though, again, is a diplomatic guy. He's kind of sensitive. He's kind of cowed by this whole experience.
Yeah.
He worries that if he beats Hong, it will cause Chai Jin to lose face because Hong was there first.
Yeah.
Chai
it's all
Jin's
about
calling
the
him
face.
teacher.
Yeah.
But Chai Jin clarifies in some increasingly less subtle ways that he wants Lin Chong, to beat the tar out of the guy.
Yeah.
So they start the fight, but they do a little bit, and then Lin says, I've lost. He says, I can't use my full power where I've got this like board on my head, Kongois, which is almost like a Dragon Ball Z, like weighted clothes martial arts thing. I can't release my full power with this big board on my head, which is fair. It's probably a big board. Chai Jin says he directed his vassals to fetch 10 ounces of silver. When the money was brought, he said to the two guards, may I trouble you to take Lin Chong's rack off temporarily? If there's any question raised about this when you arrive at the Changzhou prison, I will bear all responsibility. Divide these 10 ounces between you. So these guards are really just like getting real rich here. Like everybody's giving them money. So Chai Jin looks so lofty and dignified. Remember, brows of a dragon, eyes of a phoenix. The guards didn't dare refuse. Then Chai, and which means this whole like punishment thing seems very like loosey-goosey to an extent. But Chai sweetens the pot even more by tossing a 25 tael ingot of silver onto the ground for the winner. And then Lin sort of starts realizing, oh, Chai Jin wants me to win, for sure. Come on, yelled Hong. He swung his staff downwards. Lin dodged back. Hong pressed forward another pace. Raising his staff, he again chopped down. Lin Chong said saw that he was off balance and brought his staff sweeping upwards from the ground. Hong had no time to recover. He tried to twist out of the way, but Lin's staff cracked him hard on the shin bones. Hong dropped his staff and fell heavily.
May I say, this is one of the shortest fights in this book yet. Well, this is a real quick one.
Well, I mean, Lin Chong's a real...
because arms instructor Hong is just nothing compared to Ling Chong.
I mean, Lin Chong was a big arms instructor, the mighty Imperial Guards.
Yeah.
So everyone laughs and cheers, and then and I quote, Hong, shamed face, limped away and left the manor. So Hong was so owned.
Off with you. Yeah.
That, he couldn't even like shake his hand and say good fight. He just is so embarrassed. He just slinks away.
He just disappears.
So Lin Chong parties there for a week. I guess these guards have nothing better to do.
Yeah.
But eventually he finally has to go to Tongzhou for his exile. So Chai Jin gives him a farewell banquet. He also wrote 2 letters, which he handed to the arms instructor. He says, "The prefect of Tongzhou is a friend of mine," he said. "I'm also on intimate terms with both the warden and the head keeper of the garrison prison."
Well-connected dude.
For somebody who just has a bunch of criminals in his house. Yeah. Give these letters to them, and they'll be sure to treat you well. And then Lin has to put his board back on.
Yeah.
So.
Still got to keep up the appearances.
Yep. So he makes it to the prison, and then the 2 guards who've come with him all the way to Kaifeng have to go home. But he's placed in a room by himself and directed to await registration. What I didn't really realize, I kind of had assumed that, if you were exiled, the punishment of exile, like they sent you there and then you're kind of almost like cut loose, and as long as you don't come back. But as we'll see, it's more like you're just like serving in like a penal colony.
Yeah.
I know
it's still a prison.
Right. And I know like there's certain figures you hear like, oh, they've been sentenced to like hard labor in Xinjiang, like in like the Qing dynasty. But I thought that was more of like a special case. I didn't realize like everybody almost when they go on exile, you got to keep tabs on them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a real like prison situation.
Maybe it was a little bit more space than if you go to prison in the capital, though.
Well, I mean, China's a very dense place. If you try and get away, someone will see you. And you've also got a tattoo on your face.
Yeah.
So he's waiting for registration. The other prisoners come to see him. They say, "The warden and the head keeper here are very bad," they said. "They only want to extort money. If you can bribe them, they treat you well. If you have no money, they throw you in the dungeon where you pray for life and long for death, both in vain." Which is kind of...
a grim picture?
Well, it's also they can't be both in vain. If you're praying, you know what I mean? if you're praying for life and you die, then you're long for death, and that's succeeded. So they can't both be in vain. But anyway, they say if your palms are greased, you can. I mean, it sounds cool though. If their palms are greased, you can avoid the 100 blows they give to all new prisoners to beat discipline into them. You need only say you're ill, and the matter will be postponed indefinitely. Otherwise, it's 100 strokes that will leave you more dead than alive.
Isn't that just a perfect demonstration, picture of what the Chinese imperial incarceration system is like?
And remember, he only got 20 strokes for his exile.
Yeah.
So it turns out the appropriate bribe amount is 5 taels of silver for the warden and 5 for the head keeper.
Yeah.
So first the head keeper thinks he won't get a bribe and sort of comes in there and yells at Lin Chong and scares off all the other prisoners. But I think it's supposed to be Lin Chong just didn't want to bribe him in front of everybody because he didn't want them to know.
Or maybe he just came in too quickly and Lin Chong didn't have the time.
I think it's a little bit strategic.
Sure.
I get the sense.
Okay.
So he gives him money. He gives him 5 taels for him, 10 for the warden, which the head keeper promptly steals.
Yeah.
And then
it's understood he would do that.
And then it's all smiles. The head keeper grinned broadly. "Arms instructor Lin, I've heard of your good name before. You're truly a splendid fellow. Marshal Gao has framed you, no doubt about it. Although for the time being you have to suffer this inconvenience, I'm sure you'll eventually make your mark. A man with your reputation and talents never waits around idly for long. One of these days you'll be a big official."
What a difference.
Thanks, Mr. Headkeeper. So, and then
he says, "I'm entirely dependent on your kindness." On my bribes, really more
bribe money. Well, and then Lin Chong gives them the letters from Chai Jin, and the headkeeper is like, "Oh, wow, these are better than gold." And he goes off to tell the warden. Also, the headkeeper's like, "Oh, yeah, when you talk to the warden, just say you're sick, and then they won't beat you." So this is really like a established procedure.
Yeah, just common practice.
Yeah. Which it makes me think of, like, that seems to be like the way of getting out of things in Imperial China. You just say you're sick. Like whenever, like in the Qing Dynasty, if Sushi wants somebody Sushi wants somebody to go do something, like go fight the foreigners. They go, "Oh no, my feet. I can't. I really wish I could.
I know.
Sorry."
I mean, same as Wang Jing at the beginning of the book.
Oh yeah.
trying to get out of it. Although Gaucho is not a regular official. Wouldn't let him have it. Yeah.
No. Yeah, Wang Jin's like, I can't go. So, and then the arms instructor sighed. With money, you can reach even the gods. A bitter truth indeed. Though you would think that he would know this because this just really seems to be an established part of the system.
Yeah.
Of course, you have to bribe everybody.
It's a feature, not a bug.
So they call in Lin Chong to be beaten to get the 100 blows.
Yeah.
You are a new prisoner, said the warden. The first emperor of Song has bequeathed to us the ancient regulation. 100 blows must be administered to every prisoner newly sent into exile. Guards, get him ready. Then Lin Chong's like, I got a little cold on the road.
He says, your humble servant caught in a bad cold during his journey here and still hasn't recovered. I request that the beating be postponed. And the headkeeper, having been bribed,
he's like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
Oh,
he's not well at all.
Yeah, he says.
Yeah, please have pity.
Since the symptoms of his illness are still evident.
Nowhere else in this book there says anything about any evident symptoms of the illness, by the way. Because there is no symptom.
Perhaps we can put this off for the time being, said the warden. We can beat him when he regains his health. So,
which means it will never.
I like how it's like it's the ancient regulation we all must follow, brought down by the emperors. Oh, you're not feeling good?
Yeah.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, we'll give you one a day, So then they give him a real cushy job. They're like, because you gave us money, because you know Cai Jin, because you got a big position back at the capital, mighty imperial guards. We're gonna give you the best job in the prison. All you gotta do, Cherry, burn incense, sweep the floor twice per day.
Yeah.
Of this little temple. Other than that, do whatever you want.
And then they also to demonstrate to Lin Chong how good he has it.
Yeah.
They described how bad.
Yeah,
they would treat the other.
They're like,
prisoners.
oh man, you're lucky you got those letters, you got that money because we would work the life out of you.
Yeah.
I make it.
We threw them into the dungeon. Okay, we threw them into the dungeon where they pray for their life and long for death, both in vain.
Okay, so
they say that again. So.
I almost feel like this is like the slogan of the prison on the wall.
I know, but I mean, I think
like
both in vain means that they
Chongzhou prison. You'll pray for life and long for death, both in vain.
Yeah, but I mean,
rate us on Yelp.
I think the point is sort of saying like you're not living, you're not free.
I know.
You also don't die, so it's a very terrible torture. You get no closure
Unless you got 5 taels of silver for each of the people,
yeah.
I guess. So he's living chill. They take off his rack,
yeah.
so he doesn't have to wear the little thing anymore. Cai Jin sends him presents.
Winter clothing.
Everybody's always sending everyone winter clothing. Winter clothing. And so like the interesting thing is, obviously this is a fictional book, right?
Yeah.
But it's based in an objective reality that people would understand.
Yeah.
So I just find it funny that like the thing that you always got to send to prisoners is like winter clothing, which just implies to me that like that's just everyone's always cold. Everyone's always cold in these prisons.
Yeah, also the prison will not supply you with clothing.
Right? No.
Yeah.
You got to wait for somebody to like die and take their clothing.
Yeah. And also all the other prisoners became recipients of Lin Chong and Cai Jin's charity.
Mm-hmm. So he's like a pillar of the community. So it says, the warden and the head keeper, having been bribed, were always very cordial. He was left free to come and go as he pleased with no restrictions. So things are going pretty good for Lin Chong. Could be a lot worse, right?
Yeah.
He spends like kind of reminding me of Sagacious Lou. He's got a couple months just lounging around, doing whatever. But then he's kind of out and about, and somebody calls his name. Lin Chong turned around and looked. And this is how the chapter ends. And as a result of seeing the man who hailed him, fire and flames nearly put an end to his life. In the wind and snow, he narrowly escaped suffering mortal wounds. Who was the man whom Lin Chong saw? Read our next chapter, if you would know.
This is I have no idea what's going to happen in the next chapter. Because last chapter, I was like, yeah, that's Sagacious Lou. Like, I know what's going to happen.
He's going to screw it up.
Yeah.
Sagacious Lou is going to screw it up. Like, what Sagacious Lou is going to... Oh, you mean... I thought you meant like in general, when a chapter ends with Sagacious Lou, like what's going to happen next chapter?
Sure.
And it's like Sagacious Lou's going to screw it up.
That's true in essence. But last chapter, he saved Lin Chong. So, he didn't screw up for once.
No.
Yeah. But I have no idea who this... Do you have any idea who this dude is?
No, but I think the answer is Lin Chong's not going to stay at this prison.
No, I agree so, yeah. Is that so? He's got to go up the Liang Mountain. We all know where this is going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one more thought. There are, two more. There are sort of two parallels here that I found, that they're quite obvious. One is Marshal Hong from the first chapter, who messed everything up, who was too lazy, who was too arrogant, who let the demons out. Yeah. And then in this chapter,
he wasn't even lazy.
He was lazy.
I know he was lazy, but that's
he was
not,
like, I gotta climb a mountain. I'm gonna hike.
But that's not how the demon. He succeeded in his mission.
Yeah.
And then he was just bored.
I know, because he was too arrogant.
Yeah, I know he was, but.
Okay, you know what?
His lazy. If he was lazier, the demons would still be in the turtle statue.
On the seal, it specifically said, Marshal Hong. Okay, Marshal Hong, you do not open this gate. And he's like, I gotta open it.
Yeah.
So, and then the same instructor Hong, they're just arrogant men. And I thought this is a phrase I've learned after I came to America. There's all mouths and no trousers.
That's true.
That's Marshal Hong and instructor Hong.
If you're a tough dude,
yeah,
you're all trousers.
And then there you go.
Maybe a little mouth.
There you go. Sagacious Lu has a lot of mouths, let me tell you.
Yeah.
He can talk and yell and shout and say obscene things.
Yeah.
And then the other parallel is Lord Chai Jing for Ling Chong as his patron.
Yeah.
And Squire Zhao, if you
With
remember,
Sagacious Lu.
for Sagacious Lu. And they both, they write letters for them. They give them money. They keep them with them for a while.
These country nobles.
They send them winter clothes.
Yeah, these country nobles, they just have nothing. It's like their whole goal.
And they're sitting on generational wealth.
Even Nine Dragons, Shijin.
Right? Oh, yeah.
He was
like a lower.
I know, but he's got to go hang out with the bandits.
Yeah.
Like on the mountain. It's just like they just can't get enough of these bad boy tough dudes of China.
No.
They got to
Can't get enough of it.
Can't get enough of them.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, that's chapter 9. So I think we're getting, we're expanding the cast of characters. We're kind of meeting some new people. Marshal Hong, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the 108 stars of death. Not Marshal Hong, Cai Jin.
Oh, Cai Jin is? Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
He's one of the lesser ones, but
Okay.
he's involved. If I'm wrong, I'll cut this out, but I'm pretty sure he is.
Okay.
Anyway, thank you for listening, everyone. We appreciate messages and comments you send and rating us on iTunes, or not iTunes, Apple Podcast or wherever. And thank you for listening, and have a nice day.
We'll see you next time.